What's up, Battletech fans? Today we're painting up the busted Coyotl I received from my Proliferation Cycle force pack because I asked and you voted for it. The missile pod on the left arm came out of the package broken, and I was kind of annoyed with myself that I hadn't noticed that when I first picked it up. But I thought, let's turn that frown upside down and slap some paint on this bad boy after a quick patch job. We're going to employ an almost strictly ink wash and dry brush technique with a simple two-tone color scheme, so all skill levels are welcome to follow along at home. The list of materials you'll need for this is in the video description, so let's get started. Since I'm going to paint this bad boy with mostly ink washes, I started with an undercoat of Wraith bone spray. As I've demonstrated here in times past, just do your best to get a smooth, even coat. Don't spray too close to the miniature, and do your best to spray in short bursts rather than one long, sustained burst. Keeps the paint from going on too thick. I've chosen the Clan Coyote Delta Galaxy for this one, as a shout out to the originators, and that's going to be a steel blue body with darker toned arms. So how I plan to achieve this look is to start off with 2 coats of Drakenhof Nightshade. If you're familiar with painting with the contrast or speed paints, then this is very much just like that. The ink washes are a bit thinner than contrast type paints though, so you'll typically need more than 1 coat if you're going to achieve a similar look. I've found that 2 coats of Drakenhof Nightshade in this instance is good. Any more than that and it's far too dark for my liking. Give it about an hour or so to dry each time, and let the wash pool in the places where shadows would naturally be cast and areas naturally be darker. With these classic washes though, you've got to be careful and wait long enough for the first coat to dry before you apply the next. If you try and apply the next coat too soon, you'll end up rubbing some of the first coat smooth off, and you'll be left with a huge white gap in probably a highly visible area of the miniature. You don't want that, ask me how I know, so give it some time. Now that the shade is dry, I'm first going to take out a standard dry brush and go to town with some Caledor Sky. As usual, have a towel or napkin handy and wipe most of the paint away before you start this process. Make sure to give it a quick test and you're on your way. Like I said, really let the Mini have it with this. This is going to provide most of the real blue that the viewer's going to see, so spare no surface. Quick, even strokes are enough to get the job done, but don't press too hard or you'll risk rubbing off the paint. But do apply a moderate amount of pressure as you're going through this part. It's not until the second half of this step that we lighten up a bit, so don't be afraid of it. There is no finesse here, just whisk the brush across the miniature and allow it to highlight all of the raised areas. When that's finished, move on to Lothern Blue. I used a much softer angled dry brush for this part from Army Painter, and I suggest you do the same. Wipe most of your paint off onto your chosen surface, but this time only apply a very light pressure. You're only wanting to hit the areas that you just went over, not turn the miniature this color. Do less on the underside of the miniature though, as that is far less likely to receive light than any of the other parts. We're like 75% done at this point. Next, what you're going to want to do is add a normal coating of Nuln Oil to each of the arms and repeat that process twice more, letting each coat thoroughly dry in between each application. The neat thing about this part of the process is that it can cover up any little mistakes that you made along the way if they aren't too egregious. Get a little bit of wash on the inner arm? No worries, this will cover it up. Got a bit of blue on the inner arm while dry brushing? No problem, this will hide it. So don't be afraid of the Nuln Oil in this step. Hit the Mini with it at full strength, and after the final coat has thoroughly dried, whip out your Bastion Grey from Privateer Press. Another light dry brushing with a soft, angled brush will be the final touch on the arms, and will be the thing to cover up any remaining evidence that you might just not have been as accurate with the brush as you'd like to pretend you are. Just like me! The neat thing about this Mini is that there aren't too many places that you need metallics for, and the only ones that do are all pretty intuitive. Gun barrels, missile ports, antennae, vents. It's fairly easy with this one, but I always like to say, pick out your spots that are going to be metallic before you start. It's always helpful to have a plan. The neat thing is that this step would only take a few minutes for most anyone, since there's so little that needs to be done in that department. When the Leadbelcher's dry, hit it with some Nuln Oil at full strength. Give it a standard amount of time to dry, and move on. If you like, you can give the gun barrels and the antennae a quick dry brushing with Runefang Steel to give them a little extra hint of light, and one of my other favorite things to do is add a heat effect at the end of a barrel. All you have to do is add a tiny bit of Talassar Blue contrast to the barrel ends, and the more random it looks, the better. And we're done. I've gone ahead and finished off the cockpit with Evil Sunz Scarlet and Spirit Stone Red, and the Valhallan Blizzard basing won the viewer poll over Astro Granite by a nose at the time that I'd finished the miniature. I actually really like it. I think it really accentuates the blue of the body and legs, so good call, kids. Anywho, thanks for voting in the polls for this miniature and sticking around to see it finished. I greatly hope you've enjoyed this mini painting sesh, and if there's another mini from the Proliferation Cycle Force Pack you'd like to see done up, let me know in the comments below. Subscribe if you enjoyed this video so you can see more videos just like this one in the future. Patrons saw it first at patreon.com/battlebound. I'm Tuck Davian, and we'll see you next time right here on the Space Lanes.
Be sure to smash our like button and subscribe to our channel.
Crowdfunding is when lots of people give you small amounts of money to help your passion project come to life.